Really love discussing this scene and how Conrad speaks to Belly in this moment. But I feel like a really fundamental part of what's going on here is often missed. This whole conversation and many of the other moments in season one are alluding to the fact that Belly and Conrad were like on the brink of something romantic developing between them in the prior summer before we see them in season one. A great example of this is the bonfire scene. When Belly sees Nicole and Conrad, Conrad feels the sense of which he's got to explain himself and the fact that they know each other from the prior summer, and he's sort of like trying to appease Belly and be like, oh, it was after you left to look at colleges with Stephen, because clearly there was something there, to the point where Belly was partly expecting that something would develop between them this summer based on what had happened previously, especially given that she was a little bit more grown up now, a little more womanly and coming into herself as a young lady, and thought that something was going to develop between them. But then when she arrives at the summer house in season one, it's very clear that Conrad is not himself. It's reiterated over and over again throughout season one that Conrad is acting differently. He's been in a mood for a little while. Like, why, he's being weird. Why is he acting like this? She says that to him in episode one. Why are you acting like this? Why are you being like this? You're so different. And so that's a big part of what's going on internally for Belly, is Conrad is really different. He's acting really weird. So she expected them to have this romantic connection, and then he's acting strangely. And then on the flip side of that, Conrad is seeing that Belly is suddenly a young woman. And not only that, but his mum is encouraging her to be a debutante. And she's taking a little more effort to make herself a little more dressed up. She's going on a date. He's suddenly seeing changes in her that make him feel a little bit intimidated as well. So in season one, they're both noticing that each other are very different from when they last saw each other. And they had this budding romantic connection that was just about to bloom, and then all of a sudden these big changes have happened in the other person, and they don't quite know how to process that. And then we have this scene where it finally comes to blows, and they have this discussion that's a little bit heated. Belly sort of brings forward more that romantic connection that was budding and that calls him out for his behavior. But I think the really important thing here is that this comment that is often just thrown back at Conrad about the mirror thing is that they're both just pointing out what has changed in the other person. Belly says the thing about, why don't you go smoke some more pot? She's saying, hey, you've changed. You're different. Look at what you do now. It's a mean comment, but it's meant to be in a way of like, look at how you've changed. Look who you've become. I don't know you anymore. I'm confused. And then he basically says the whole, why don't you look in the mirror some more, as a way of saying, hey, now you're much more focused on your physical appearance and how you look. And I'm really confused by who you are as well. So although, yes, they're not kind things to say to each other, the point of this scene is to show how they're both processing the fact that the other person is changed from what they remember them being. And because of that, the trajectory of their relationship has now shifted. And that's all that this scene is trying to bring out. Yes, they say nasty things, but there is a point to it. They're just pointing out to each other, hey, you're different. You're different from what I remember you being. You've changed. And then the other one says, yeah, well, you've changed too. And I don't really know how I feel about it. They're having a conversation that is hidden beneath the one we're actually hearing. There's so much underlying meaning to what they're saying. And what it's really alluding to is just the shift that has happened in their relationship.